Welcome to E39 Source. Ryan Schultz here behind the camera on my 2000 M5. Right there, stored for winter. It's not too pretty in Ohio. We just had a foot of snow. It has disappeared. That car still exists. But it's warmer today. I've been in San Diego for the last 4 weeks, so it's still cold to me, but it's 48, so that's not terrible. So I've done PDC DIYs on this car before. We did the retrofit of the front sensors. I've shown you guys how to replace the outer corner sensors. We've done a rear bumper removal and installation video, but this one, there's not going to be anything totally new in this video if you've seen everything else, but today we're focusing on replacing the inner sensors on the rear bumper. They're a little bit more difficult than the outer ones in the way that we need to remove the bumper, not fully, but we need to pull it out. So fully disconnect it and pull it out several inches to access them. You cannot do it from under the car. If you have a standard 5 Series and not an M5, you have a strip that goes along the whole thing and you don't need to remove the bumper. Kennan's going to be doing the same thing. He has retrofitted PDC to this car in its entirety, front and rear, and the rear sensors were seated incorrectly. So we need to pull his bumper back out as well and adjust those. So today really we're just pulling the bumper out a few inches, replacing and adjusting those sensors specific to the E39 M5. We need very few tools for this job. We're going to make use of a 6.10mm socket. Doesn't need to be a deep well, I just find it easier to use the deep well. I use quarter drive. We need a small flathead screwdriver, a plastic pry tool like that. Pop rivet tool is always useful but not completely necessary. So we open the trunk, we take down a cargo net if you've got it, we take down that trunk trim there that just lifts right out, and we take off this piece just because it came with the other one. And then there's going to be 6 points of attachment that hold this black trim inside the trunk. And don't damage this, this is about a $300 piece of trim. So step one, open both of your doors and locate the small plastic 10mm nut I've already removed, but it would thread right there. And we go ahead and remove that one. We do the exact same thing on the driver's side. Then there's very visibly 4 black BMW typical pop rivets. Pry them out with the screwdriver and then use your pry tool. They're in 2 pieces. There's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. So now that we've got all of that disconnected, this thing, it's probably easier with the doors open. You just kind of pull it out away from those studs that we just looked at, and then it's just going to lift up. I'll need 2 hands to do it. We actually have to go out a little further towards the cabin of the car because of these little cargo net hooks. I might find it easier to go ahead and pull these things out, which would involve removing the 3 plastic studs to then remove the door, 3 more on this side, and then we'd be able to pop these out. So I'll let you know if we have to do that. So we are going to need to pull off these pieces of trim in there. So the doors come off just with 3 more pop rivets, the same ones that are on the trim. Doors move out of the way. Then to remove these pieces here, we've got another stud and another one here. So these pry tools are perfect for this. These ones are a little tighter, but you just get it in there and pull up. Passenger side's going to be easier because on the driver's side the CD changer's in the way. I don't keep mine tightened down. There's 2 Phillips screws over here, so I just lift it up and out. And that is a taillight ballast for anyone wondering. And then that reveals 2 more studs. Then these carpet things will come out. So now when you get the trim off, you see some wires down there. The red, white, black, yellow, all of those are stuff that I have added for front PDC, rear fog lights, all the retrofittings that I've done with this car. Videos on the channel if you guys are interested. Those carpet pieces that we removed, there's no need to remove them, you just need to push them that way. You won't be able to get the black trim out unless you do that, so they have to be disconnected and then just moved freely around here in the trunk to get them out of the way. Then there's going to be 6, 3 on each side. There's 13mm bolts right there by the chassis rails. You can see I've removed them. Those are the studs of the bumper struts. So when you take this bumper off, you see the plastic bumper cover. Then there's a aluminum or steel actual bumper. It's called the bumper carrier. Then attached to that are 2 struts that stick out, I don't remember, maybe 18 inches and push into here. So we're just going to be sliding it out. The bumper will stay attached to the car by points of these rails. So we need to remove the bolts, 13, 13, and 13. The hardest one is the last one back there, only because the radio's in the way. I was able to use my socket, but a 13mm spanner would probably be best, or open-ended wrench. So now with all of those removed, we're done in the trunk for now. We come to the fender liners, and I think there's 3 points of attachment in the fender liners. It's very dark in there, but they're just 3 more pop rivets, smaller heads. There's one there, So another one here, and then I think there's one right up in there. So in the fender liners, you're gonna find 6 of these, 3 on each side, so they come out very easily. And now we're ready to slide the bumper off the car to the rear. It's kind of a 2-person job, so I'll let Kenan get to the same place and then he'll help. So you're gonna have a guy over here that'll kind of grab it and pull while supporting it here, and the same thing on the other side. And it only needs to come out a couple of inches, maybe 3 or 4 inches, so we can do this. Now there's a big piece of styrofoam in there up on top of the steel bumper, but below the plastic. That gives this a little bit less hollow of a feeling, I suppose. So we'll have to be careful with that. I don't remember if we need to remove that or not, but I'll let you know shortly. And by the way, my reason for replacing these, this one's been touched up a couple times, but it really does not look very good. I think this car used to be daily driven, so there's some rust in there and it really looks like hell. The other one isn't bad, but I'm starting to see some bubbles in it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and replace both of those with, not new, they're used Silverstone PDC sensors, but they're build dated 2012, so that's pretty cool. Thanks, Adam. So a couple good firm tugs and it pulls out. We got it about 4 inches. Then you kind of pry up on the plastic here and work out your styrofoam section. That will need to be removed unless you've cut holes in it before. Careful over here, this is going to touch your fender, so try not to slide that around too much, scratch it up. And then I also put some shop towels on top of the exhaust tips just so we don't scratch those up. But at this point now, we have perfect access to the PDC sensors themselves. It's right there, real easy. The wiring harness just has a little clip on the side you release and then wiggle it out. And then there's some arms that hold the PDC sensor in. You pry the arms apart and pull the sensor out. Easy, easy. New sensors pop in with a nice satisfying little thud. Plug your wiring connector back in. He's gonna hop in the car now and press the button. Probably gonna hear the front sensors go off because it's kind of close to the wall. But as far as reassembly, it's not as fun to put it back on as it is to take it off. You've got to have somebody hold right above the exhaust there and kind of pull it up so you don't have too big of a gap right there. So have somebody hold it where you want it, then go inside the trunk and tighten down the 13s pretty tight. I don't have a torque spec for it, but put them down very tightly. And then over here, when you slide it back on, there's just a little arm that slides out, and you slide that behind a peg that comes off of the fender. So it slides in there and sandwiches, and then you replace your pop rivets in the fender liners, bolt everything together, put the trunk back together, and you're good to go. So that's a vast improvement over my other ones. Hopefully those last a long time. The other ones still work, they just didn't look the part anymore. And Kenans are no longer too recessed, so they work as designed. Alright guys, that's it. Leave any questions, comments down below, and we'll talk in a future E39 source video. Take care.